When she said those words, "You're too emotional," I was only being honest. Something inside me went quiet. It wasn't anger at first, just silence. We were sitting in the small cafe where we had our first date, the same corner table where she once held my hand and said she'd never hurt me. But now, her tone was sharp, careless, as if my feelings were just an inconvenience she had to deal with. It all began a few months earlier when I started noticing small changes in her behavior. She wasn't as attentive as before. Her texts were shorter, her laughter less genuine. I'd ask if something was wrong, and she'd shrug it off. "You think too much," she'd say. Maybe I did. Maybe I cared too deeply for someone who'd already started letting go. That evening, I told her I felt hurt by something she said to our friends at dinner, how she mocked my job and called it just average. I didn't expect her to apologize. I only wanted her to understand that it stung. But instead of listening, she sighed and rolled her eyes. "You're too emotional," she said again, stirring her coffee. I was just being honest. It was strange how the word honest sounded like a weapon in her mouth. Honesty was supposed to heal, not cut. But hers came wrapped in sarcasm, served cold and proud. I stared at her, wondering when honesty had become cruelty. After that day, I stopped talking as much. I listened more, not to her words, but to her tone, her pauses, her sighs. I realized that she didn't see me anymore. To her, I was a man who felt too much, cared too much, and asked for too much understanding. She didn't know that caring was all I had left to give. Weeks passed, and I began to pull away quietly. I stopped waiting for her messages, stopped asking about her day. She noticed, of course. One night she asked, "Why are you so distant lately?" I wanted to laugh at the irony, but I simply replied, "Maybe I'm just being honest too." That made her frown. For the first time, she seemed confused, even uneasy. She didn't realize how her words had built a wall between us, brick by brick, every time she dismissed my feelings. I had tried to climb that wall for months, but now I was too tired. Eventually, our conversations became short and meaningless. We talked about weather, schedules, plans we no longer kept. The warmth was gone. I knew it, and deep down, I think she did too. Still, neither of us said the word goodbye. We just drifted further apart, pretending the silence was peace. One afternoon, she called and said she wanted to meet. I agreed. When I arrived, she looked nervous, maybe guilty. She said she didn't think things were working out, that we wanted different things. I nodded. There was nothing left to argue. Before leaving, she said softly, "I never meant to hurt you. I was just being honest." That word again. I smiled faintly and replied, "Maybe the truth isn't about being honest. Maybe it's about being kind." She didn't respond. Her eyes dropped, and for once, she had no words to defend herself. As I walked away, I realized I wasn't broken. Just wiser. I had learned that some people confuse honesty with cruelty, that saying something true doesn't mean it has to be said without care. I had spent months trying to be understood, but in the end, I understood something greater. Not everyone loves with the same depth. In the quiet that followed, I found peace. I stopped replaying her words in my head. I stopped wondering if I was too emotional. I wasn't. I was simply human, someone who felt deeply in a world that often rewards indifference. She, on the other hand, became a lesson I would never forget. A reminder that love cannot survive without empathy. That honesty, without compassion, is just another way to push someone away. Sometimes, I still think about that cafe, about the sound of her voice when she said I was too emotional. And now, instead of pain, I feel gratitude. Because that moment didn't break me, it freed me. In the end, her version of honesty taught me mine. I deserve someone who understands that emotions aren't weaknesses, they're proof of love. And maybe that's the most honest truth of all.